Picture this. A single, handwritten invoice slides across a dusty workbench in a tiny London effects studio. On it, one hyper-realistic silicone moon bump, custom-sized for a woman whose measurements just happen to match the Duchess of Sussex. If that slip of paper is genuine, it doesn't merely nudge a rumor mill, it shatters the story we've been fed about royal motherhood. Because faking a pregnancy isn't just bending protocol, it rewrites the most personal chapter in the Windsor playbook. So before we dive into timestamps, TikToks, and shifting silhouettes, ask yourself what would make a global icon risk everything on a costume shop prop. Keep that question in mind, because the answer may ripple far beyond baby Archie, all the way to the future of the modern monarchy. It started with a crease. One slow-motion clip from 2019 showed Meghan's belly folding as she bent to greet a child, and suddenly, the internet had a new obsession. Forums replayed the footage frame by frame, claiming a real bump shouldn't ripple like fabric. Then came the stiletto squat video 8 months along, yet she dipped to the ground with dancer-level ease, stood back up, and waved as if gravity didn't apply. Next, tabloids compared side-by-side photos. Monday's silhouette looked petite. Friday's looked full-term. Each snapshot fed a growing thread on Reddit, where amateur sleuths stitched GIFs and captioned them "Moon Bump Evidence #27. Most viewers shrugged it off. Angles, lighting, maternity shapewear. But a core group wouldn't let it go. They mapped her public calendar, tracking the size of her bump like stock prices. Every interview, every walkabout, every hand on belly became a data point. Still, without proof, the whispers stayed underground, until one quiet shopkeeper claimed he held the receipt that could blow the whole story open. And that's when speculation turned seismic. The rumor finally burst into daylight when a camera crew found its way to a cramped effects workshop on the outskirts of London. Amid shelves of silicone limbs and faux wounds, the owner, soft-spoken, hands still dusted with talc, recounted a peculiar 2018 order. A private email arrived from an address ending in assistant at KP, requesting a Stage 3 maternity prosthetic, shade caramel, custom waist-to-hip ratio. Payment, rush, no questions asked. 2 fittings followed, he says, carried out after hours behind locked doors. He swears the client never removed her hood, yet everything about her posture screamed poise and Pilates, details he only pieced together later while watching royal walkabouts on TV. The clincher? A digital invoice stamped "Delivered, Nottingham Cottage." He's kept it in a fireproof pouch, fearing both lawyers and internet vultures. He doesn't want fame, he insists, just the truth in print. One craftsman's receipt may sound flimsy, but history is littered with empires toppled by smaller scraps of paper. And if his story is real, the Duchess's fairy tale is one laminated document away from a cliff's edge. But that invoice wasn't the only bombshell waiting to drop. The shopkeeper's revelation might have simmered in a corner of the internet, but TikTok doesn't do slow burns, it does wildfire. Within a single weekend, creators spliced his interview into snappy 60-second breakdowns, layering pop beats over freeze frames of Meghan's most bump-centric appearances. The hashtag #MoonBumpGate vaulted past 1 million views before dawn Monday, and by lunch, the algorithm served it to people who'd never cared about royals beyond a wedding highlight reel. One clip, zoomed to 400%, contrasts Meghan's sleek Oscars night silhouette with footage of her belly shifting while she steps from an SUV. Another plays the now infamous stiletto squat in reverse, daring viewers to spot the moment fabric wrinkles like latex. The platform's dueling factions went to war. On one side, amateur anatomists drew red circles around every suspected seam. On the other, supporters posted side-by-side ultrasounds and urged everyone to touch grass. But engagement is currency, and controversy pays double. Brands began sponsoring reaction videos, and even mainstream morning shows lifted footage straight from TikTok to fill their royal news segments. Overnight, a niche prosthetics rumor graduated to global headline, "Did the Duchess wear a moon bump?" By the time legacy outlets caught up, the narrative belonged to scrolling thumbs, not seasoned editors. TikTok had already minted new experts, each promising a deeper dive: body language analysts, special effects artists, even a retired midwife explaining why real bumps don't swing like pendulums in clip number 28. It didn't matter that evidence remained shaky. Virality had shifted the burden of proof onto Meghan's silence, and in a culture driven by clicks, the next question isn't is it real, but why risk it at all? So what would make a duchess gamble her entire legacy on a rubber shell? First theory, pure optics. Hollywood A-listers ensure smiles and shoulder lines. A future leading lady might ensure her waist. A moon bump keeps stretch marks off the negotiation table and lets post-baby magazine spreads showcase a figure miraculously unchanged. Second, fortress privacy. Surrogacy is legal, but tabloid catnip. Shielding a carrier from paparazzi drones could feel safer and far cleaner than smuggling doctors through palace corridors. Third, strategic storytelling. For two royals already rewriting protocol, curating the perfect pregnancy would be the ultimate brand play. No swollen ankles, no unpredictable timelines, just a flawless 9-month narrative ready for streaming deals. Skeptics roll their eyes, fans call the theories tinfoil couture. Yet image has always been Meghan's double-edged sword. The same lens that amplified her humanitarian glow also magnified every misstep. Protecting that glow, whether for confidence, contracts, or control, might have seemed worth any risk. And while none of these motives are proven, each feels plausible enough to keep keyboards clacking, because in the attention economy, perception is profit, and the first casualty is always trust. From Netflix boardrooms to beauty label green rooms, the question ricochets: if she'd counterfeit the cradle, what else was staged? Post-palace, Meghan and Harry traded crowns for content, selling memoir pages, docuseries, confessionals, podcast intimacy. That business model runs on one fuel: credibility. Now studio lawyers sift contracts line by line, hunting clauses about material misrepresentation. Marketing chiefs whisper that motherhood is every brand's soft spot. Pair it with possible sleight of hand and sponsors start ghosting faster than a royal corgi at bath time. Even sympathetic execs admit off-record, we can spin a feud, we can't spin a fake fetus. Meanwhile, analytics teams watch sentiment graphs plunge. For every supportive comment, 3 skeptics ask why a woman championing authenticity might choose latex over labor. Streaming algorithms notice, too. Negative engagement spikes can trigger recommendation throttles, quietly shrinking the Sussex's digital footprint. And in the gig economy of attention, shrinking reach means shrinking revenue. It's a brutal feedback loop. Doubt hurts the brand. A wounded brand invites more doubt, and silence from Camp Sussex amplifies both. Yet defenders aren't retreating, they're regrouping, marshalling screenshots and official documents for a counter-offensive. Because the next skirmish will be louder, the pushback brigade is already locking shields. No sooner had #MoonBumpGate trended than allies launched their own tag, #receipts, or retract. A Markle college friend called the rumor bonkers fanfic, noting that Archie's official birth certificate lists Meghan as mother and was filed under strict UK regulations. Falsifying it risks felony charges. A former palace midwife chimed in on breakfast TV, swearing she'd seen no prosthetics unless silicone can mimic fetal heartbeats. Even a Hollywood special effects veteran tweeted that a bump realistic enough to fool seasoned OB-GYNs would cost north of 6 figures and require daily re-adhesion sessions. Logistically absurd, inside a fortress of staff leaks. Supporters frame the saga as a sexist litmus test. Would anyone question a prince's paternity belly fold? They point to past royal pregnancies, Kate's severe morning sickness, Sophie's traumatic delivery, where the public accepted official statements without dissecting every crease. A woman's body isn't public property, one op-ed argues, and skepticism stops being healthy when it polices biology. Others slam the trope of the career-obsessed actress desperate to save her figure. Newsflash: a viral TikTok reminds viewers Meghan was nearly 38. Older mothers often carry differently. Yet for every documented defense, a new clip pops up with arrows and slow-mo commentary. In the digital arena, debunking works like bailing water from a ship riddled with fresh leaks. Sussex lawyers remain silent, no cease and desist, no libel suit, fueling a whisper that perhaps they can't risk open court discovery. To defenders, that's legal prudence. To doubters, it smells like admission, and hanging over both camps is one unavoidable question: where does Prince Harry fit into all of this, or somehow not? Every rumor turns sharper when it reaches Prince Harry's doorstep. If the moon bump was real and he knew, critics say he's not the wide-eyed exile fighting for authenticity, he's a co-author in a royal ruse. That possibility slices through the goodwill he's banked since walking away from the palace glare. On the flip side, if he didn't know, if each nightly kiss landed on Silicone, then the prince, who once prided himself on protecting his family, looks oblivious in his own home. Either narrative dense, the only capital the Sussexes have left. Trust. Friends insist Harry was present at every sonogram, cradling Meghan's hand while the heartbeat echoed. Skeptics counter that sonograms can originate from anywhere with the right connections. Loyalists cite his raw grief over Diana as proof he'd never deceive the public about parenthood. Doubters reply that trauma can twist intentions, not purify them. And hovering over it all is a quieter anguish. If the moon bump claim crashes, Harry must either defend a facade or admit he was fooled. Both paths pave a rough road for a man who built his new life on my truth. Yet truth itself now has a rival, the algorithms rewriting this saga faster than any palace statement ever could. In 2025, facts trek while feeds sprint. One craftsman's invoice, a handful of freeze frames, and the narrative detonated before dawn. Platforms don't weigh evidence. They weigh engagement. An unverified hoodie fitting earns the same screen space as a certified birth record if both drive clicks. Every swipe, every share, every weight, what? Comment instructs the algorithm to amplify the spectacle. And so it does, outranking corrections, burying nuance beneath fresh outrage. Lawyers draft statements that load slower than a 15-second clip. By the time clarifications appear, the crowd has already judged, appealed, and tweeted the verdict. In this economy of eyeballs, doubt becomes a commodity, endlessly recycled because uncertainty is the perfect cliffhanger. It never ends. It only refreshes. Whether the moon bump exists or not almost stops mattering. The perception of deception is sticky enough to tarnish brand deals, twist public sympathy, and rewrite royal folklore. And until irrefutable proof surfaces, one way or the other, the louder story wins, because algorithms reward volume, not veracity. So the question lingers: when the feed finally scrolls past this scandal, what will be left, truth, or the footprint of a digital stampede? Maybe an unassuming shop slip really does lurk in a fire-safe box, waiting to flip the Sussex saga upside down. Maybe it's all breathless theater, a reminder that the internet can sculpt castles from fog. Either way, the moon bump mystery has already redrawn the lines between royal image and raw truth, warping reputations, straining loyalties, and proving that in an algorithm-ruled world, even a rumor can outrun reality. So as the clicks keep counting and the silence keeps echoing, one question trails every headline: when we scroll past the next scandal, will we remember what was proven, or just how thrilling it felt to believe?